She said it was nothing. I found out when my son was thrown down the stairs for walking into the wrong room at the wrong time. The bruises on his face spoke louder than she ever did. The man with her? Someone I let into my house. Someone who smiled at my table. They thought I'd stay broken. They forgot who I used to be and what I'm still capable of. What started as betrayal became something else when I saw the hospital monitor beeping over my son's chest. I don't want their apologies. I want something they can't fake, hide, or delete. This isn't about anger anymore. This is about what happens when a man with nothing left finally stops playing by the rules. The bitter aroma of coffee filled the kitchen as Samuel Carter leaned against the counter, his calloused hands wrapped around the warm mug. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting long shadows across the oak cabinets. The world outside was waking up, but inside, the house was silent, too silent. Vanessa had left early for one of her so-called charity meetings, and he hadn't seen Jack in 2 days. College kept his son busy, but they made it a point to catch up when they could. Sipping the coffee, Sam grimaced. Too strong. Or maybe he just wasn't in the mood. His instincts, the ones honed over years in the military, had been gnawing at him all morning. Something felt off. Then the phone rang. The sound cut through the stillness like a blade, sharp and unforgiving. Unknown number. His gut clenched. He pressed the phone to his ear. Mr. Carter? The voice was clinical, detached. This is Memorial Hospital. Your son, Jack, has been admitted to the emergency department. The cup slipped from his fingers, shattering on the tiled floor. Jack is his son from his first marriage. Sam's breath turned shallow. What happened? There was a pause, a hesitation that made his skin prickle. I can't discuss details over the phone, sir, but you should come immediately. His keys were in his hand before the call ended. The drive to the hospital was a blur. The world outside, the rush hour traffic, the pedestrians, the blinking lights, meant nothing. His mind spiraled through possibilities, each worse than the last. Car accident. Mugging. Wrong place, wrong time. Not Jack. Not his boy. By the time he stormed through the hospital doors, his heart was pounding against his ribs like a war drum. The fluorescent lights burned his eyes, and the sterile scent of antiseptic filled his lungs. He caught sight of the nurse's station. Jack Carter. His voice came out rough, edged with barely restrained urgency. Where is he? The nurse flicked through her chart. Room 6. Down the hall to your left. He was already moving before she finished speaking. The curtain was partially drawn, but he could see him. Jack. Bruised, broken. A storm of rage built inside Sam, tightening every muscle in his body. His son's right eye was swollen shut, his lips split. Dark purple bruises covered his arms, his ribs. Tubes snaked from his arm, feeding him fluids. Jack turned his head weakly. A flicker of relief crossed his battered face. Dad? His voice was hoarse, strained. Sam sat beside him, his jaw locked tight. I'm here, son. Jack's fingers trembled as they gripped the thin hospital blanket. I didn't know what to do, his breath hitched. I went home early. Vanessa wasn't expecting me. I heard noises upstairs. Sam went still. The air between them thickened. Jack swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. She was with him. With Damien. The name hit like a gunshot to the chest. Damien, Vanessa's cousin, a smirking, well-dressed parasite who never had to work for anything in his life. Jack's breath shuddered. I yelled. I didn't know what else to do. But then, his voice cracked. His guys, his bodyguards, they came out of nowhere. They grabbed me, threw me down the stairs. He winced, pressing a hand to his ribs. They said if I told anyone, they'd kill you. The world turned red. Sam closed his eyes, inhaling slowly through his nose. The rage curled inside him like a living thing, coiling tighter with each second. Jack looked up at him, his one good eye filled with fear. Dad, don't do anything stupid. Sam placed a firm hand on his son's shoulder, his touch steady despite the inferno raging inside him. His voice, when it came, was ice. Nothing stupid, he said. Just necessary. Then he stood, turned, and walked out of the hospital room, his mind already calculating the first move in a war that had just begun. The drive home was silent, but inside Sam Carter, a storm raged. The muscles in his arms flexed with every turn of the wheel, his grip tightening until his knuckles whitened. The image of Jack's bruised face was seared into his mind, fueling the fire in his chest. He had spent years trying to build a normal life, suppressing the instincts drilled into him through war. But war had found him again. As he turned onto his street, 2 black SUVs with tinted windows sat in his driveway. The sight only confirmed what he already knew. Damien thought himself untouchable. Thought his money and muscle made him immune. Sam parked a block away and stepped out, his boots crunching against the pavement. He moved like a predator, silent and deliberate, slipping through the shadows of his own home. The front door was ajar, the warm glow of lights spilling onto the porch. From inside, laughter echoed, a deep, arrogant chuckle, followed by a voice he had grown to despise. You should have seen the kid's face, Damien mused. All that fire, just like his old man. Thought he could threaten me. Ice clinked in a glass. Well, he learned his lesson. Sam's jaw clenched. Another voice, Vanessa, slurred with alcohol, laced with amusement. Sam never suspected a thing. Too caught up in his dull little routines. Always so predictable. The room exploded into laughter. The last restraint inside Sam snapped. He moved through the house like a ghost, slipping through the side entrance, past the dimly lit hallway, toward the living room where his enemies lounged in his home, drinking his whiskey. Damien sat in the center, legs sprawled on the couch, Vanessa curled beside him. 2 men in black suits stood by the windows, pretending to be relaxed. Sam knew their kind. Mercenaries, not professionals. Damien had hired thugs, not soldiers. Big mistake. He stepped into the doorway. Get out. The room froze. Vanessa's glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Damien's smirk faltered as he glanced toward his guards. Well, he sat up, feigning amusement, but his fingers twitched against his glass. The husband returns, His eyes flicked to his men. "Handle this." The first bodyguard stepped forward. Sam moved faster. Before the man could reach for his weapon, Sam closed the distance in 2 strides. His fist struck like a hammer, smashing into the man's throat. A sickening gurgle escaped as he staggered back, clutching his windpipe. Sam didn't stop. He grabbed the man by the collar and drove his knee into his gut. The body crumpled to the floor with a wheeze. The second guard reacted, reaching for a gun inside his suit jacket. Sam twisted, grabbing the man's wrist before the weapon cleared the holster. A quick snap, bone shattered. A scream tore through the air, cut short as Sam slammed the man's face against the wall. Blood splattered the pristine white paint. The body slid down, unconscious. Damien stood now, stepping back toward the bar, his confidence draining. "Now, Sam." Sam's fist met his jaw. Damien stumbled, crashing into the bar. Glass shattered around him. He groaned, wiping at his split lip, eyes wide with disbelief. Vanessa lunged forward, grabbing Sam's arm. "Stop. You'll kill him." He shook her off as if she were nothing more than dust on his sleeve. "Don't you dare." His voice was steel. "Don't you dare plead for him." Damien coughed, spitting blood onto the polished hardwood floor. "You think," he panted, trying to steady himself, "you think you can walk away from this? You don't know who you're messing with." Sam grabbed him by the collar, yanking him upright. "You put your hands on my son." His voice was low, controlled, more dangerous than any scream. "You sent your dogs to hurt a kid. And you think I'm afraid of you?" He slammed Damien against the bar again. A groan of pain, a whimper. Damien had never been in a real fight in his life. He had always let others do his dirty work. "No one's untouchable." Sam leaned in, voice a whisper of promised destruction. "Not even you." Vanessa cowered behind the couch, hands pressed to her mouth. "Sam, please." He turned to her, eyes cold. "I loved you," he said. "I built a life for you. A home. And you burned it to the ground." She trembled, mascara-streaked tears running down her cheeks. I never wanted this. But you let it happen." His voice held no emotion. He turned back to Damien, dragging him across the room. Blood dripped from the man's nose, staining his pristine white shirt. Sam shoved him toward the door. "Get out." Damien staggered, but didn't move fast enough. Sam stepped forward, his presence looming. "I said get out." The coward ran. Sam turned to Vanessa. She shrank under his gaze. "Where am I supposed to go?" He laughed, cold, humorless. "Ask your cousin." She hesitated, then grabbed her purse with shaking hands. One final glance at him, at the home she had destroyed. Then she ran too. The house fell silent. Sam stood in the wreckage of his life, surrounded by shattered glass, bloodstains on his floor. His phone buzzed. A message from Mark. "Found something. Meet me tonight." Sam exhaled slowly. This wasn't over. It had only begun. The night air was thick with the scent of gasoline and asphalt as Sam Carter pulled his truck into the empty lot behind an old auto shop. The place was a relic, rusted metal siding, a flickering neon closed sign barely clinging to life. The world had moved on, but this place, much like the man he was here to meet, refused to die. A shadow detached itself from the darkness near the back entrance. Mark Rowan. Time had aged him, but not softened him. The same sharp blue eyes, the same military stance, like he was always prepared for the next fight. His beard was flecked with gray, his leather jacket worn but well kept. The kind of man who never let his guard down, because he knew what waited if he did. Sam stepped out of the truck, closing the door with controlled precision. Mark folded his arms, studying him. "You look like shit." "Feel worse." "Yeah, I heard." He jerked his chin toward the door. Inside, the back room smelled of oil and burnt coffee. Papers, maps, and an open laptop cluttered a makeshift desk. The walls were covered in pinned documents and surveillance photos, a web of connections scribbled in red marker. Sam didn't have to ask. Mark had already been digging. "You don't waste time," Sam murmured. Mark grabbed a black duffel from the floor, tossing it onto the table. "Neither do you." He unzipped it. A stack of files, some crisp, others worn from being handled too many times. He tapped the top one. "I did some digging, and you're not gonna like what I found." Sam braced his hands against the table, exhaling slowly. "Tell me." Mark flipped open the first file. A photo of Damien stared up at them, smug, suited, untouched by the consequences of his own actions. "Your wife's cousin isn't just some trust fund prick playing gangster. He's the real deal. Connected. You know the Mancini family?" Sam's stomach turned to stone. "Mancini? That wasn't small-time corruption. That was organized crime with roots so deep, even law enforcement couldn't pull them out." Mark continued, voice measured. "He's been laundering their money through real estate deals. Fake investments, offshore accounts, the works." And Vanessa? She wasn't just screwing him. She was his partner. A cold, sharp silence settled between them. Mark slid another photo forward. Vanessa, smiling at a high-end restaurant, Damien's hand possessively low on her back. Another, her signing papers, her expression calculated. Then, the last one, a bank statement. Sam's name was on the account, but the deposits, the withdrawals, they weren't his. "They used me," Sam said, voice eerily calm. Mark nodded. "They funneled dirty money through your name. If the feds ever came knocking, guess whose assets would get seized first?" Sam clenched his fists. "They were setting me up." Mark leaned forward. "It gets worse." "Damien's operation?" "He's been expanding. More muscle, more power." "Your little stunt tonight? You didn't just piss off a spoiled asshole. You pissed off the Mancini family. They don't let things slide." Sam breathed deep, forcing the fire inside him to smolder instead of explode. Mark's voice lowered. "I pulled some offshore records. Damien's been moving money aggressively the past few weeks. It's like he's preparing for something. I don't know what yet, but whatever it is, it's big." Sam absorbed the words, let them settle. His life, his entire life, had been a lie, The woman he had trusted, the home he had built, the stability he had fought for. It had all been a smokescreen while Vanessa and Damien had quietly dismantled everything beneath his feet. And then they went after his son. Mark pushed another paper toward him. That's the lawyer they hired. The divorce papers? Already drawn up. Vanessa was going to drain everything and leave you with nothing. Once you were out of the picture, Damien would make sure you never resurfaced. The room pulsed with the sound of Sam's breathing. Steady, controlled, dangerous. Mark studied him carefully. You already know what you have to do. Sam looked at the pile of evidence before him. Proof of betrayal, deception, greed. And at the center of it all, Damien and Vanessa. He didn't just want revenge. He wanted to burn everything they had built to the ground. Sam reached for the files, his movements deliberate. Give me everything, every account, every connection. I want to know where they sleep, where they hide their money, who they trust. Mark smirked. Now you sound like the man I remember. Sam met his gaze, eyes cold, unyielding. I buried that man a long time ago. Mark chuckled darkly. No, brother. You just put him on ice. Sam exhaled slowly. The soldier in him wasn't just awake. He was ready for war. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and stale air. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow over the white walls. Sam Carter moved through the corridor with a purpose, his every step calculated, controlled. The weight in his chest hadn't lessened. Not since the phone call. Not since he saw his son broken and bruised in that hospital bed. Two men flanked the door to Jack's room. Men Sam had hired overnight. Not just any men, ex-military. The kind who didn't flinch under pressure. The kind who knew how to make a problem disappear if it came knocking. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with a buzz cut, inclined his head as Sam approached. No one in or out without clearance. Good. Sam pushed the door open. Inside, Jack lay propped against the pillows, his face still a mess of bruises. But his eyes were sharp. He had his father's resilience, even through the pain. The television played on low volume, some late-night talk show neither of them cared about. Jack turned his head, wincing slightly. Dad? Sam pulled up a chair. How are you holding up? A small smirk tugged at Jack's swollen lips. Been better? Silence settled between them. There was weight behind it. Unsaid things they both knew had to be spoken. Jack exhaled heavily. I should have seen it earlier. Vanessa and Damien. The way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. The phone calls that stopped when I walked into the room. I didn't want to believe it. His voice wavered, and it took everything in Sam not to let his rage show. His son had already suffered enough. They were careful, Jack continued, fingers picking absently at the blanket. But not careful enough. I overheard something once, Vanessa talking about accounts, transferring money. She told Damien it had to be done before you caught on. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning something bigger. Sam's jaw tightened. It was one thing to betray a marriage, another to plot someone's downfall. Jack looked up at him, something raw in his expression. "What are you going to do?" Sam's hand gripped the armrest of the chair. "I'm going to end this." The diner was nearly empty, the kind of place where the coffee was cheap and the walls held secrets. Detective Emma Ramirez sat in the corner booth, her dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, a cup of black coffee cradled in her hands. She didn't look up when Sam slid into the seat across from her, but he knew she'd clocked him the moment he walked through the door. "You made some noise last night," she murmured. Sam didn't bother pretending. "They touched my son." Ramirez sighed, setting her cup down. "You're not going to like what I found." She pulled out a manila folder, pushing it toward him. "Damien's deeper in this city's corruption than you realize. And he's protected." Sam flipped the folder open. Pages of financial records, offshore accounts, business connections, all leading back to Damien. And at the center of it all, a name underlined in red. Judge William Grayson. Ramirez tapped the name. Every case involving Damien, his businesses, or his associates. Dismissed? Sealed? He's the reason your enemies have been untouchable. Sam's pulse was steady, but his mind was already mapping out his next move. "How bad is it?" Ramirez exhaled through her nose. "Bad? Grayson's been laundering money through his office for years. Vanessa's been moving funds into his accounts. Quiet, small amounts over time. Nothing that would trigger alarms." Sam's fingers tightened around the edge of the folder. "They were setting me up." Ramirez nodded. "And once you were out of the way, they'd walk away clean." The air between them thickened. Ramirez studied him carefully. "You can't take this on alone." Sam shut the folder. "Watch me." A muscle in her jaw ticked. "Damien's not a small-time crook. He has connections. You go after him head-on. You'll be dead before you make it to trial." Sam leaned forward, voice low, dangerous. "I'm not looking for a trial." Ramirez held his gaze. "That's what I was afraid of." Silence stretched. Then she exhaled sharply. "Fine. If you're going to do something reckless, at least let me know where to clean up after you." Sam stood, tucking the folder under his arm. "I'll be in touch." As he walked out of the diner, he knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice. The warehouse smelled of oil and rust, its metal beams groaning under the weight of years. A single bulb flickered overhead, casting long, shifting shadows. Sam stood at the table, scanning the documents spread out before him. Bank statements, shell corporations, offshore accounts, all tying Damien and his associates to money laundering, racketeering, and fraud. Across from him, Mark leaned against a rusted toolbox, arms crossed, watching. "You sure you want to go through with this?" Sam didn't look up. "They went after my son." Mark exhaled through his nose, the closest thing to a sigh a man like him would allow. "Then let's make sure they regret it." He gestured toward the laptop where lines of code scrolled in rapid succession. "Danny's pulling up the last of the encrypted files. Should be any second now." A sharp ping echoed in the space. Danny, hunched over the keyboard, gave a low whistle. Well, would you look at this?" He cracked his knuckles, spinning the laptop toward them. Meet Solstice Holdings, the pretty little shell company funneling dirty cash straight to Judge Grayson's pockets. He tapped another file. And this? Offshore accounts in Vanessa's name. Looks like she's been siphoning money for months. She and Damien were planning their escape. Sam's fingers curled into fists. Mark glanced at him. They were going to bleed you dry, leave you drowning in their mess while they disappeared with everything. Danny smirked. I'd say that deserves a response, wouldn't you? Sam's voice was steel. It's time to make sure they never get the chance. An hour later, Sam slid into the back booth of a dimly lit bar. The air was thick with cigarette smoke, the quiet murmur of conversation filling the space. The man across from him nursed a whiskey, his eyes wary. You Carter? Sam nodded. The man set his glass down. His name was Jacob Reed, former owner of a small construction firm, until Damien's men forced him into bankruptcy. He'd lost everything. You said you had proof. Sam placed a flash drive on the table. Everything Damien stole. Names, accounts, transactions. Enough to bury him. Jacob's fingers twitched toward the drive, but he hesitated. What's the catch? No catch. Just justice. Jacob exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. You don't know what these people are capable of. Sam's expression didn't waver. Neither do they. A long pause. Then Jacob pocketed the drive. I'll make some calls, he murmured. There are others like me. You're about to start a war? Sam's jaw tightened. Good. Back at the warehouse, Danny sat at his laptop, fingers flying over the keyboard. All right, he muttered. Judge Grayson's dirty money is about to become very public. He pressed a final key, and boom. Evidence package sent to every major news outlet in the city. Mark grinned. How long before the judge panics? Danny leaned back, smirking. 5 minutes, tops. Sam checked his watch. And Damien? Danny's eyes gleamed. Let's just say his bank accounts are going to be very empty when he wakes up tomorrow. Mark chuckled. You just declared war, Carter. Sam's expression was cold, resolute. No. He turned for the door. I just made the first move. The city hummed with late afternoon energy. Honking cars, hurried footsteps, the distant wail of a siren. From the tinted windows of a black sedan, Damien Lancaster smirked as he checked his Rolex. He liked to arrive late. It made people nervous. His office building loomed ahead, a sleek glass and steel tower that had been paid for with stolen money and broken lives. His driver pulled up to the curb. As Damien stepped out, the air shifted. Something felt off. Then he heard it. Shouting. A crowd had gathered at the entrance, their voices rising in anger. Dozens of people, holding signs, waving papers, blocking the doors. Cameras flashed. Reporters jostled for position. Damien's smirk vanished. What the hell is this? His fingers twitched toward his phone. A woman broke through the crowd. He recognized her instantly. Claire Redding, the widow of a man his schemes had ruined. Her eyes blazed with fury. You stole everything from us, Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. All of you. We lost our homes, our businesses, our lives because of you. More voices surged forward, overlapping accusations. My father worked for you for 20 years. Then you left him penniless. You forced me to sell my restaurant for nothing. Where's our money, Damien? The walls were closing in. Damien turned to his bodyguards. Get them back. Now. The guards stepped forward, but before they could act, a reporter's voice rang out. Mr. Lancaster, how do you respond to the federal investigation into your financial dealings? Damien's blood ran cold. A different voice followed, another reporter, holding up a tablet. Care to explain these leaked documents? Bank records linking you to Judge Grayson and offshore laundering? Screens lit up. News channels were already running the story. His name, his face, his crimes were plastered everywhere. His phone buzzed. He yanked it from his pocket. A text from Vanessa. What did you do? Our accounts are empty. Everything is gone. A second later, another message, this time from an unknown number. Checkmate. Damien's stomach twisted. He spun toward the street, searching for the ghost behind all this. And then he saw him. Across the road, standing by a parked motorcycle, Sam Carter watched. Arms crossed. Expression unreadable. The noise faded. The world shrank down to just the two of them. Damien's lips curled back in a snarl. Sam didn't move, didn't smile, just stood there, watching, waiting. Then the black SUVs rolled up, and men in suits stepped out, federal agents, their badges catching the light. Damien Lancaster, one of them announced, voice firm, unwavering. You're under arrest. Chaos erupted. Reporters swarmed. The crowd jeered. Handcuffs clicked into place. Damien fought, twisted. No, you don't understand. This is a setup. This is. Sam finally moved. Just a single step closer. Just enough for Damien to see the truth in his eyes. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. And it was only the beginning. The night was thick with the scent of rain and gasoline. A neon motel sign flickered weakly, casting a sickly red glow over the cracked pavement. Room 206. The last stop on Vanessa Lancaster's long, bitter fall from grace. Inside, she sat curled in the corner of the bed, a cigarette burning between her trembling fingers. Her once pristine nails were chipped, her designer clothes swapped for something cheap, bought in desperation. She had spent the last 24 hours running, from the media, from the authorities, from the wreckage of the life she had helped build and destroy. But she couldn't outrun this moment. The knock at the door wasn't loud. No need. She had been expecting him. She pulled herself up, swallowing hard, and opened it. Sam Carter stepped inside. No hesitation, no wasted movements. He shut the door behind him, the click of the lock echoing like a final judgment. Vanessa stepped back, gripping her arms as if they could shield her. Sam, he raised a hand, cutting her off. Sit. She obeyed, not out of fear, but because she knew there was no use resisting. Not anymore. Sam took his time, studying the room. The stained wallpaper, the flickering lamp, the half-empty bottle of cheap vodka on the nightstand. It suited her. Damien's dead. His voice was flat, almost detached. Vanessa flinched, fingers tightening around her cigarette. "You're lying?" Sam met her eyes, and something inside her withered. "Last I saw him, he was begging," he continued. "Not for his life. He knew that was gone. He was begging them to believe him. That he didn't steal from them. That it was all a misunderstanding. A beat. They didn't believe him." The cigarette slipped from her fingers, landing on the thin motel carpet. She didn't pick it up. Sam took a step closer. The room seemed smaller now, suffocating. "You thought you were smart," he murmured. "Thought you could bleed me dry and walk away clean." He tilted his head slightly. "Tell me, Vanessa, when did you decide to betray me? Before you started sleeping with Damien? Or after?" She swallowed, her throat tight. "It wasn't like that." His laugh was hollow, humorless. "Of course it was." She tried to straighten her posture, some last scrap of defiance flickering in her eyes. "What do you want?" Sam reached into his jacket, pulled out a small folder, and tossed it onto the bed. "Two options," he said. "One, you disappear. Take what little you have left and run. Leave the city, leave the country. I don't care. But if I so much as hear your name again, I'll make sure you wish you had been in that warehouse with Damien." Her lips parted, her breath shallow. "And two?" His eyes darkened. "I take this to the feds. Full immunity deal in exchange for everything you know. You'll live, but you'll spend the rest of your life in a prison cell." Vanessa stared at the folder, her pulse hammering. "Run or rot." She pressed a hand to her forehead, exhaling shakily. "You're giving me a choice?" Sam's voice was like steel. "More than you gave Jack." Silence. Heavy, unforgiving. Then Vanessa grabbed the folder with unsteady hands. She didn't look at Sam as she whispered, "You won't see me again." Sam nodded once. "For your sake, I hope that's true." And then he was gone, leaving her alone in the dim, hollow room, nothing more than a ghost of what she once was. The sun hung low over the city skyline, its golden light casting long shadows over the steel and glass of Carter and Rowan construction. From the top-floor office, Sam Carter stood by the window, a fresh cup of coffee in his hand, watching the world below. Years ago, he had looked out at this city and seen a battlefield. Now it was something else. Not peace, but something close. A knock at the door. Jack stepped inside, moving with the quiet confidence that came from knowing exactly who he was. He had changed, stronger, sharper. No longer the boy who had been broken in a hospital bed. Now he was a man, standing on his own. They finished laying the foundation for the East Side project, Jack said, dropping a folder onto the desk. Ahead of schedule. Sam glanced at the documents, but didn't reach for them yet. He studied his son instead. "You sure about this? It's not too late to back out." Jack scoffed. Too late was years ago. He leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "I'm in this, Dad." Same as you. Pride swelled in Sam's chest, though he kept his expression unreadable. You're making a name for yourself? Jack smirked, trying a vibration against the wood. Sam's phone, a single message lighting up the screen. Vanessa spotted in Miami. Cheap apartment. No money. No power. He let out a slow breath. It wasn't satisfaction. He had buried those feelings long ago. It was simply right. Jack read the message over his shoulder. She won't come back. Sam nodded. No, she won't. A second knock. Mark Rowan strolled in, tossing a file onto the desk. Just got word. Julian Torres lost his last appeal. Life sentence sticks. Jack whistled low. Guess that's another one off the board. Mark grinned. We're running out of enemies? Sam arched a brow. Good. The office door swung open once more, this time without knocking. Danny, dressed sharp, expensive suit, but still the same smug grin underneath it all. Heard you were having a party without me. Mark gestured toward him. You're late? Danny shrugged. Hacker's hours. He flopped onto the couch. Got some fun news? Castellano's kid just sold off the last of the old rackets. Family's officially out of the crime business. Jack's expression darkened. And into what? Danny smirked. Tech. Security. Investing in clean money. Imagine that. Mark scoffed. The world's changing. Sam looked around the room. His people, his family, they had all come through the fire and come out the other side. Not untouched, not unscarred, but alive and winning. Jack lifted the folder again. So, you gonna sign off on the East Side deal, or what? Sam took the pen, flipping the contract open. This was what he built. Not revenge. Not war. A legacy. He signed. And for the first time in years, the battle was over. The past never disappears. It lingers, a shadow at the edge of every victory. Years have passed, and my empire stands tall, my son's safe. But trust? That died with them. I sip my coffee, watching the city I now control. They thought they could break me. They only made me unstoppable.